he's perfectionist, as almost everyone we've discussed would fall into that personality characteristic. They're a perfectionist.
Jack Nicholson has never been one to hold back. With a killer smile and eyes that hide a hint of beautiful madness, he's lived his life and built his career on a foundation of brutal honesty. And now at 88, with the Hollywood hills in his rearview mirror, he's apparently naming names. The 6 actors he says made his life on set a living hell. Some are legends, some are enemies. All of them are unforgettable. Jack Nicholson, the name itself, is an institution, an icon of Hollywood's golden age and its rebellious new wave. From One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest to The Shining, Chinatown to Batman, he hasn't just starred in movies. He's shaped film history like few others. His characters are seared into our collective memory, but even legends have their limits. Even gods have their pet peeves. And now, in what's being called his final, most candid reflection, Jack is making it clear there are 6 actors he couldn't stand working with. Actors he says were toxic, manipulative, indulgent, and in some cases even dangerous to the creative process. Who are they? What really went down behind the scenes of some of cinema's greatest films? And what does Nicholson's legendary perspective reveal now, decades later, about the price of genius and the art of truth? Let's dive into the untold stories and the unfiltered opinions from one of Hollywood's greatest and most brutally honest voices. Before we get to the names on Jack's alleged list, let's talk about the man himself. To understand why these 6 people got under his skin, you have to understand the code he lives by. He's intense, magnetic, and fiercely protective of his craft. Born in Neptune City, New Jersey, Nicholson was a man who had to invent himself. He arrived in Hollywood in the 1950s, a rebel without a cause, and fell in with the iconoclasts. He studied under the legendary acting coach Sanford Meisner, who preached a simple but profound gospel. Acting is living truthfully under imaginary circumstances. For Jack, this wasn't just a technique. It became his religion. Truth, no matter how ugly or uncomfortable, was the only thing that mattered. His breakout role in 1969's Easy Rider cemented this persona. He wasn't just an actor. He was a symbol of the counterculture, a voice for a generation tired of phoniness. That disdain for anything fake or performative became the bedrock of his professional life. Directors from Milos Forman to Stanley Kubrick have spoken of his unparalleled commitment. He didn't just play a role. He crawled inside its skin and hijacked its nervous system. He famously stayed in character for long stretches on the set of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, refusing to speak to the director for weeks to authentically portray Randall McMurphy's rebellious spirit. For The Shining, he wrote pages of his own mad ramblings to get into the mind of Jack Torrance. This wasn't just method indulgence. It was a sacred commitment to the work, and it forged his ironclad code. Show up, be prepared, tell the truth, and bring something dangerous and alive to the table. Don't waste this time with ego, with laziness, or with a performance you cooked up in front of your bathroom mirror. Bring your agam, your whole soul, or don't show up at all. And when that code was broken, let's just say he never ever forgot. The first name on Jack's list is perhaps the most painful for him. It's the man who was his hero, the god of modern acting, and ultimately his greatest professional disappointment. Marlon Brando. Nicholson idolized Marlon Brando. For Jack and every other serious actor of his generation, Brando was the messiah. His raw, vulnerable, and explosive performances in A Street Car, Named Desire, and On the Waterfront tore up the rulebook and created a new language of acting. So, when Nicholson got the chance to co-star with his idol in the 1976 Western The Missouri Breaks, it should have been the fulfillment of a lifelong dream. The meeting of 2 acting titans under the direction of Arthur Penn. The expectations were stratospheric, but working with Brando was a different story entirely. The genius Nicholson had worshipped on screen was in person a ghost, a shadow of his former self, consumed by a bizarre and frustrating apathy. Nicholson arrived on set every day, lines memorized, ready to spar with his hero. But Brando, he soon discovered, wasn't playing the same game. He never knew his lines, not once. Jack reportedly said, "The man invented the modern art of screen acting, and he's got cue cards taped to every damn lamp, every other actor's forehead. He'd read a line off a prop banana if you let him." It was a joke. He was a genius, but a lazy one. And in my book, Lazy genius is just a fancy word for fraud. Brando's behavior became legendary. He was paid a fortune, showed up overweight, and made increasingly bizarre character choices that seemed designed to amuse himself and no one else. He adopted a strange lilting Irish accent and wore bonnets and dresses on screen, decisions that baffled the director and his co-stars. For Nicholson, this wasn't eccentric artistry. It was a profound act of disrespect to everyone who had shown up to do the work. There's a fine line between genius and indulgence, and Brando danced on it every day, usually with his back to the camera so he could read his lines. I came to work to create something, to find some truth out there in the dirt. He came to work to entertain himself. It wasn't a performance. It was a private party and the rest of us weren't invited. It broke my heart a little, to see your hero become a parody of himself. The film was a notorious flop, and though Nicholson always spoke with reverence for Brando's early work, he swore he would never share a set with him again. It wasn't worth the chaos. He allegedly concluded the lesson was brutal. Never meet your heroes, especially when they've stopped being heroic. The second name is a more complex and tragic one, a relationship Nicholson himself has described as a casualty of a brutal creative war, Shelley Duvall. Their battleground was the Overlook Hotel, the setting for Stanley Kubrick's 1980 horror masterpiece, The Shining. Technically, this wasn't a feud between two actors. It was a shared trauma inflicted by a perfectionist director. Kubrick was notorious for his grueling methods, demanding hundreds of takes for a single scene, pushing his actors to the brink of physical and psychological collapse. The shoot stretched on for over a year. Nicholson, with his disciplined training, found a way to survive. He channeled his frustration into the volcanic rage of Jack Torrance. He understood Kubrick's game and as a craftsman found a way to navigate the madness. Shelley Duvall, however, playing the terrified Wendy Torrance, had a different process. Her gift was her raw, transparent vulnerability, and under Kubrick's relentless pressure, that vulnerability was shredded day after day. Nicholson admitted in later interviews that the sheer emotional chaos emanating from Duvall was exhausting. He required focus, an anchor to play against, but he felt her performance was often wildly unpredictable, a direct result of Kubrick's torment. She was under pressure. Sure, we all were. Stanley was a general waging a war, and we were his soldiers in the trench. But my God, it felt like she brought the storm to set with her every morning. There was no consistency. You'd do a take, and it would be brilliant and raw. You do the next one, and it would be something else entirely. As an actor, you need a dance partner. You need to know the steps even if you're improvising the moves. With Shelley in that environment, it often felt like she was hearing a different song. It was hard to find a rhythm. Jack's frustration wasn't aimed at Duvall personally, but at the exhausting dynamic it created. He needed a professional core to ground the scenes, and he felt the production was constantly at the mercy of her frayed nerves. It made an impossible job even harder. Years later, with the benefit of hindsight, Jack softened his view considerably, expressing deep empathy for what she endured. I respect her. I truly do. What Stanley put her through was unconscionable. No one should have to go through that. That shoot was brutal for both of us. It almost broke us. The film is a masterpiece, but it's built on the wreckage of our sanity. I wish it hadn't been quite so hard on us all. The next name on the list represents a clash not of generations, but of philosophies. Tom Cruise. On the surface, their pairing in the 1992 courtroom classic A Few Good Men was electric. Nicholson as the fearsome Colonel Nathan Jessup and Cruise as the cocky young lawyer Daniel Kaffee created one of the most iconic confrontation scenes in film history. You Can't Handle the Truth became a cultural touchstone. But behind the scenes, Nicholson was reportedly unimpressed with the burgeoning superstar. To Jack, a student of Meisner's raw truth, Cruise's legendary high-wattage energy felt synthetic. He saw a meticulously crafted brand, not an authentic human being. He found Cruise's intense, almost manic focus to be more about image and control than about genuine artistic exploration. He acted like he wanted to learn from me, always watching, asking questions, but it was all about image, Jack reportedly told a close confidant after the shoot. It felt like he was performing the role of dedicated young actor studying the master. It wasn't real. You look in his eyes and you see the machinery working. Click or smile. It's perfect and it's empty. Give me someone real. Give me someone rough around the edges. Someone who makes mistakes. Give me a human being. Nicholson thrives on spontaneity, on the danger of not knowing what the other actor will do next. He felt Cruise was the opposite. A technician who came to set with every beat, every gesture, every line reading, calculated and rehearsed to perfection. For Jack, this wasn't acting, it was execution. The famous scene, the courtroom, people love it, and it's fine. We got the job done. But what you see on screen is me trying to break through a wall. I'm throwing everything I have at this kid, trying to get a real unplanned reaction out of him. And all I got back was what he'd practiced in the mirror. It's the difference between a live concert and a studio recording. I prefer the sweat and the feedback. Despite delivering a performance that earned him an Oscar nomination, Jack said he wouldn't work with Cruise again. The philosophies were simply too different. He respected the work ethic, but he couldn't connect with the soul. Fourth on the list is a feud that was far more personal and public. A battle of wills with an actress he once revered on a project that was his own baby, Faye Dunaway. Nicholson and Dunaway had created magic together in the 1974 masterpiece Chinatown. Their chemistry was legendary. So when Jack decided to step into the director's chair for the 1990 sequel, The Two Jake, bringing Dunaway back to repraise her role as Evelyn Mulray seemed like a no-brainer. It turned out to be a disaster. The dynamic had changed. Nicholson was now her director, and the collaborative spirit of their first film had evaporated, replaced by open hostility. According to crew members, Dunaway's behavior on set was a nightmare. She was always late, hours late, always combative, arguing over every single line, he recalled in a rare, candid interview about the troubled production. It wasn't about making the scene better. It was about power. It was about her trying to assert control. As a director, you need cooperation. You need your actors to be your partners in telling the story. What I got from her was sabotage. The tension became unbearable. Jack, already juggling the immense pressure of directing, writing, and starring in the sequel to one of the greatest films ever made, was now locked in a daily war with his leading lady. Their arguments were legendary, with sources claiming that Nicholson, in a fit of rage, once told her she was impossible to direct. He allegedly considered the drastic step of firing her and replacing her mid-shoot. The atmosphere was so toxic that scenes had to be rewritten to minimize their on-screen interactions. Directing is an act of profound trust. The actor has to trust that you have their back, that you'll guide them and protect them. In return, the director has to trust that the actor will show up, do the work, and be open to discovery. That trust was broken on day one. It became a hostage negotiation instead of a collaboration. You can't make art that way. It poisons the well for everyone. The Two Jake was a commercial and critical disappointment, a shadow of its predecessor. For Nicholson, it was a scarring experience that soured him on directing and forever fractured his relationship with Dunaway. The fifth name on the list is an actor-director who Nicholson respected immensely, but whose creative process he found utterly maddening: Sean Penn. In 2001, Nicholson took the lead role in The Pledge, a dark, haunting thriller directed by Penn. On paper, it was a perfect match. Two of Hollywood's most intense and celebrated talents coming together for a serious, character-driven story. And while Nicholson has always praised Penn's vision and intelligence as a filmmaker, the actual experience of working under him was, in Jack's own words, suffocating. The conflict was one of creative control. Penn, known for his obsession with gritty realism and his meticulous, exacting directorial style, had a specific vision for every single moment of the film. He wanted to capture a raw, unvarnished truth, and he believed the only way to do that was through absolute control. For an actor like Nicholson, whose genius lies in his instinct, his spontaneity, and his ability to find magic in the unplanned moments, this was torture. Sean wanted it his way, always. Every pause, every glance, every line reading was mapped out in his head. There was no room to breathe, no room to play, no room to discover anything. He would give you a line reading, and you were expected to mimic it perfectly. What's the point of hiring Jack Nicholson if you want a puppet? Nicholson felt creatively straitjacketed. He described the experience as draining, with Penn's relentless pursuit of his specific brand of realism killing any sense of life or energy on set. He's a brilliant guy, Sean. He really is. But he's a painter and he wants every single brush stroke to be exactly where he planned it. I'm not a brush stroke. I'm the damn paint. I'm going to splash around a little, see what happens. He couldn't handle that. He was directing a result, not a performance. And for an actor like me, that's death. It's like being asked to run a marathon with your feet tied together. While Nicholson delivered a powerful, understated performance that earned critical acclaim, he and Penn have never worked together again. It was a case of two brilliant but fundamentally incompatible artistic methods colliding. The final name on this list is perhaps the most surprising. It's an actor who is arguably the biggest star of his generation, a man Nicholson worked with in one of his most celebrated late-career films, Leonardo DiCaprio. Their film was Martin Scorsese's 2006 masterpiece, The Departed. Nicholson stole the show with his terrifying, unhinged performance as mob boss Frank Costello. His scenes with DiCaprio playing the undercover cop Billy Costigan crackle with an almost unbearable tension. That tension, it turns out, might not have been entirely acting. Insiders on the set claimed that while there was immense professional respect, Nicholson found DiCaprio's working method to be frustratingly controlled. Where Jack wanted chaos and danger, Leo wanted discipline and precision. He's too controlled, Jack supposedly said of his younger co-star. Everything feels rehearsed, intellectualized. He's done his homework. He knows his character's history. He knows what he wants to do in the scene, but there's no danger. There's no chance he's going to do something that truly surprises you or even surprises himself. Nicholson thrives on pushing boundaries and keeping his scene partners off balance. There's a now famous story from the set where, in the middle of a tense scene, Nicholson unexpectedly pulled a real gun on a visibly startled DiCaprio. Scorsese kept the cameras rolling, capturing Leo's genuine shock and fear. That single moment encapsulates their differing philosophies. Nicholson was willing to introduce real danger to provoke real truth. DiCaprio, a master of preparation, was thrown by the unscripted chaos. Leo's a craftsman. He builds a performance brick by perfect brick, and it's a flawless, beautiful thing when he's done. But you can see every brick. I don't want to see the bricks. I want to see a goddamn house that might fall down at any second. That's excitement. That's life. We got a great movie out of it. Sure, Marty knows how to use us both. But I walked away thinking, never again. The kid's great, but he's too safe for my blood. So what does this list, this final unfiltered judgment, really say about Jack Nicholson? Is he a bitter old man settling scores? Or is he one of the last truth-tellers in a town built on illusion? He's not bitter, he's honest. At 88, he's had a lifetime to reflect on a career that has reached the highest possible peaks. For him, this isn't about personal animosity. It's about a sacred code. The names on this list represent the different ways that code was broken. Through laziness, through emotional chaos, through phoniness, through ego, through suffocating control, and through a lack of danger. These people, they all taught me something, even if it was what not to do or who not to be. Acting isn't about pretending. Any kid can do that. It's about telling the truth, your truth, the character's truth. It's about showing up with a piece of your soul, ready to bleed if you have to. If you can't show up with truth, I don't want you next to me. It's as simple as that. Whether you agree with his judgments or not, one thing is clear. Jack Nicholson calls it like he sees it. And his vision, sharpened by 60 years in the Hollywood trenches, is as clear and unforgiving as ever. Were you surprised by any of the names on this list? Do you think Nicholson was too harsh or just being real? Let us know in the comments. And if you want more behind-the-scenes Hollywood truths, hit like, subscribe, and tap the bell. Up next, we reveal the truth behind MASH and Alan Alda's shocking list of co-stars he couldn't stand.